You're running full speed on a treadmill cranked to maximum, sweat pouring down your face, heart pounding, legs burning. You're giving it everything you've got. But here's the thing, you're not moving forward, not even an inch. That's exactly what millions of people do every single day with their lives. And if you've ever felt like you're working harder than everyone around you, but that somehow getting nowhere, this video is going to change everything. 5 The Hustle Trap. We've been brainwashed since childhood with one simple lie. Work harder than everyone else, and you'll win. Out-grind them. Out-suffer them. Become the Michael Jordan of spreadsheets, the Kobe Bryant of emails, the LeBron James of late nights. But what if I told you that all those grinding sessions, those 4 a.m. wake-ups, those stress headaches, and those motivational podcast marathons haven't been helping you as much as you think they have? What if the answer isn't more hustle, but actually less? Before you click away thinking I'm about to tell you to quit your job and live in a hammock, let me share a story that will blow your mind. Quanfei Dave's story, the productivity prophet. There was this guy we'll call Dave. Dave treated productivity like it was his religion. His calendar looked like a rainbow exploded. Color, coded blocks for everything. Wake up at 4:30 a.m. Run 10 kilometers, ice-cold shower, journal for exactly 12 minutes, meditate, answer emails while blending a kale smoothie with one foot. You know the type, the kind of person who makes you feel lazy for sleeping past 5 a.m. Dave believed with every fiber of his being that if he just worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. The promotion, the happiness, the money, the feeling of finally winning at this game called life. So he kept pushing, harder and harder. He skipped breaks like they were poison, missed birthdays like they were optional, forgot breakfast tasted like because he was always rushing out the door. Fast forward 1 year. Dave got his promotion. He also got shingles, not the roofing kind, the stress kind. He couldn't sleep. His hair started falling out in clumps. He forgot how to smile naturally. Sure, he had money in his bank account, but zero peace in his heart. And then, sitting in a therapist office that he didn't even want to be in, Dave completely broke down. Not because he had failed, but because he had succeeded. He got everything he thought he wanted, and he was more miserable than ever. That's when it hit him like a freight train. He had been climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. Fut feeve, the wrong wall question. So let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What wall is your ladder leaning against? Because here's the brutal truth. Hard work is fantastic. I'm not telling you to be lazy. But if you're working harder just to avoid slowing down and facing what really matters, your health, your inner peace, your true purpose, your relationships, then you're not being productive. You're just being busy. And those two things are as different as night and day. Fafri, the worship of burnout. We live in a culture that literally worships exhaustion. If you're not tired, burned out, and surviving on espresso shots, people think you're not trying hard enough. We wear our stress like a badge of honor, our dark circles like war paint. But here's what nobody wants to admit. The world doesn't reward burnout. It rewards value. You don't get extra points for suffering. You get points for showing up in your full power. Think about this for a second. A person digging a hole with a teaspoon is technically working harder than someone using a power drill. But who's smarter? Who finishes faster? Who doesn't destroy their body in the process? That's exactly what I mean. Working hard isn't the problem. Doing it blindly, without strategy, without reflection, that's when it transforms from productivity into self-sabotage wearing a motivational hoodie. Fafi Nature's Wisdom, here's a plot twist that will mess with your mind. Trees, some of the strongest, most enduring living things on this planet, grow by being completely still. Oceans, the most powerful forces on Earth, flow effortlessly. The most successful, peaceful, and genuinely joyful people I know have mastered something that escapes most of us. They know when to pause. They know how to say no without guilt. They know how to rest without shame. And most importantly, they know how to think. That's the real superpower. Thinking, pausing, zooming out from the chaos and asking the hard question. Because what's the point of being a beast at grinding if you're grinding the wrong thing? What's the point of being incredibly efficient at climbing a mountain if it's the wrong mountain? Fudfive Jay's wake up call. Let me tell you about another friend. We'll call him Jay. Jay worked around the clock building a business he didn't even care about. He convinced himself that if he just pushed a little longer, made a little more money, then he'd have time for the stuff that actually mattered. You can probably guess how this story ends, right? One ordinary Tuesday, driving home from another 12-hour day, his 7-year-old son asked him a question from the back seat. Just 5 simple words that would change everything. "Dad, do you love your computer more than me?" That question didn't just hit Jay. It demolished him, not like a gentle tap on the shoulder, like a full-speed, soul-crushing, heart-stopping truck that didn't even honk before impact. His son wasn't being dramatic. He wasn't throwing a tantrum or being rebellious. It was just honest curiosity from a kid who had noticed that Daddy's laptop got more attention than he did. Jay laughed awkward. You know that uncomfortable laugh you do when someone accidentally exposes a truth you've been hiding from yourself. He mumbled something about loving his son more than anything in the world and turned up the radio to fill the silence. But that question echoed all the way to the grocery store, where Jay sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel, eyes filling with tears. For the first time in months, he felt something other than stress and pressure. He felt guilt, deep, crushing regret, and underneath it all, love. A love he hadn't had time to express because he'd been too busy proving he was a good provider. Fowler Feeve the parking lot revelation, so Jay sat in that grocery store parking lot and cried for 45 minutes straight. Not because he was weak, but because he was finally being honest with himself. He cried for all the birthdays he'd half celebrated while checking emails, for the bedtime stories he'd rushed through with one eye on Slack notifications, for all the moments he'd physically been present but mentally been somewhere else entirely. And in that parking lot, something inside him cracked open. Not in a destructive way, in the kind of way that finally lets light in. He realized he'd been chasing approval from people who wouldn't even remember his name in 5 years. He was sacrificing sacred things, his time, his presence, his peace, for meetings and deadlines and just one more email. That day, Jay made a decision. No more. Favre, the transformation. Jay didn't quit his job or throw his laptop in the river, but he completely changed his relationship with work. He stopped letting it control his life like some needy, demanding partner. He set boundaries that actually meant something. He protected his time like it was made of gold. He started asking one simple question before saying yes to anything. Is this actually important, or does it just feel urgent? Most importantly, he started measuring success differently, not by how packed his calendar was, but by how full his life felt. And slowly, that crushing guilt started to fade. Not because he became perfect, but because he became present. Now, when his son tells him elaborate stories about monster trucks that shoot rockets and fart glitter, Jay listens like it's the most important presentation of his career. He's there, fully there. When his kid laughs, Jay doesn't just hear it. He feels it in his chest. He remembers it. He treasures it. Whaf barf, the unexpected outcome. Here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Jay didn't just become happier. He became better at everything, healthier, clearer in his thinking, more respected at work. His business actually grew faster than it had when he was killing himself. Because when you build your life from a place of intention instead of desperation, everything starts to align. The universe seems to conspire in your favor. Opportunities appear that you never would have noticed when you were running around with your hair on fire. Jay didn't have a time machine. He couldn't go back and reclaim those missed moments with his son. But he learned something powerful. Starting now is enough. Showing up late is still infinitely better than never showing up at all. One brave decision to pause and reassess can completely rewrite your entire story. Fafi, the real shift, when you stop trying to look busy and start focusing on being truly impactful, your whole world transforms. You stop chasing validation from people who don't matter. You start creating meaning in the moments that do. You stop being a background character in your own life. You step into the starring role you were always meant to play. And that, my friend, is the shift we all desperately need. Not more hustle, not more hours, not more caffeine and motivational quotes. More presence, more intention, more moments that actually matter. Fafafirafi, the marathon in the wrong direction. So, when I say some of you are out here running marathons in the wrong direction, I mean it with every ounce of my being. You're sweating. You're exhausted. You're proud of how far you've traveled. But what if all that effort is just taking you further away from what your heart is begging you to notice? What if you're sprinting past the very treasure your soul has been searching for all along? Meanwhile, life is standing at the real finish line, waving its arms frantically, shouting at the top of its lungs, "Hey! You're going the wrong way! Turn around! The courage to stop, maybe, just maybe, the smartest, bravest, most revolutionary thing you could do right now isn't to run faster. It's to have the courage to stop, to turn around, to walk slowly and intentionally toward what really matters, to ask yourself the hard question, to face the uncomfortable truths, to choose presence over productivity, connection over accomplishment, being over doing. Because at the end of your life, nobody's going to remember how many emails you answered or how many late nights you pulled, but they'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember the moments you were fully there. They'll remember the love you gave when you thought nobody was watching. Closing CTA, if this message hit you where it needed to hit, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's been running their own marathon in the wrong direction. Sometimes we all need permission to slow down, turn around, and start walking toward what really matters. Your story isn't over. It's just time to start writing a better ending.